Hello and welcome. Today's presentation is about making cider, or in America, hard cider. And this is my orchard. No, this is the orchard that I get to pick from. It's owned by a rather large national institution. The orchard is a little bit neglected. It's got a mixture of eating, cooking and cider varieties, and it's the cider ones that I'm after, of course. So these are big trees. They're about 30 foot tall, a bit bigger in places. The way that you have to do them is all about cleanliness of the product. So animals have been in here in the last 4 weeks. The rules clearly state that it's got to be 8 weeks between animals allowed on the grass and you picking apples from the floor. It's only been 4 weeks, so I put down very large tarps and then knock the apples off the tree onto those, thus keeping everything nice and clean. The apples will get a little bit bruised, but that's not necessarily a problem. When the apples are actually pulped, that will smash them to bits and actually effectively bruise every little centimetre of the apple anyway. The actual tool that I'm using there is an extendable pole that is so useful because you can operate on the low level and then extend it out to get the higher ends and get the apples at the top of the tree. Very, very useful tool. I will explain about it a little bit later on because I think it's worth mentioning, and no, I am not sponsored by the manufacturer in the slightest. So it's just a matter of working around the tree, getting all the apples out. Obviously a lot of debris from the tree comes down as well, and a lot of insects, which we don't want to harm really. And it's just a matter of working around the tree, as I said. Once you've knocked all the apples out of a section, then basically it's just roll the tarp into the center so that it makes gathering the apples as easy as possible. I guess it's all about efficiency because you don't want to spend time picking and packing. It's just like anything we all do. If you can make it time efficient, that's a good thing. So all the apples get rolled into the centre. Lovely job. The actual container that I use to collect the apples is just a ordinary 30 litre bucket that I'll grow my potatoes in, washed out of course, and I find it's the right size with handles on to actually collect all the apples in there without really what you're doing. Now what I'm doing there when I'm hand picking is I'm trying to pick the apples that are ripe, perfect and no blemishes on them. And then to transport those apples, it's easier in a Hessian sack. So there's a little bit of a knack of doing this, and there you go. Everything goes in the Hessian sack. I think I did that without dropping one. Well, that's rather impressive. Almost like I've done it before. Right, I'm back in my own orchard of 6 apples trees now on the allotment. And I just want to run over the equipment that I use. This is Wolf Garden equipment. I have no affiliation with it whatsoever, but it works, and it's worked for quite a few years. This is an extendable handle, really handy for getting up top. You can buy, this one has seen better days. A bag that you basically reach up, cut the apple and break it off. It's useful for when you are eating apples that you just want to keep nice and clean, you straight away, and there you go. For the amount of apples I have, it's a waste of time. There, you know, and the mouse has got to it, so it's ruined anyway. I have for years used a rake handle. This is very good for knocking the branches and for scraping the apples off the tree. Works very well, but you get caught up in the branches too easily. So this year, or should I say last Christmas, I bought this little tool, and it works great because it gets up through the tree very well, and you can loop it around a branch and give the tree a good shake. That's the attachment I'll be using on the ripe ones. On the not so ripe apples that just need a bit more persuasion to come off, the rake will be working handy there. Okay. Now then, in this orchard, I won't be using anything to collect the apples with on the ground because I know no animals have been here. Yeah, there's been slugs and snails and snakes, maybe the odd rat, mice. Yes, those things have been on there, but none of the farm animals have been in here. So these will be safe to pick up off the floor, little rinse, and away you go. So I will be taking the windfalls off today. Different than at the orchard. Right, how do you know when an apple is ready? Well, the easiest way is to cut the apple in half, and if the pips are nice and brown, then essentially it's ready. So additional to using the pips as a guide, there's the pip that's not ripe. You can use a tincture of iodine. And that title is important, a tincture of iodine. And what you do is you put a spot on the apple and spread it over the surface. And if it doesn't turn brown, it's ripe. All the starches have turned to sugar. If it goes black, there's too much starch present and it's not ripe. I've deliberately chosen an older variety to show you exactly what. So that variety won't be ready for ages yet. That one's perfectly fine because the brown there is just from the actual iodine itself, as you can see in my finger that I used to spread it with. I'm up on this now, a couple of days after collecting all the apples from both the orchard and my own orchard. Now it's time to process the apples. These apples are from the allotment. So as I explained in the video, they haven't come in contact with animals that I know of anyway, so all they need is a wash. This is nothing more technical than bits like that. You can cut in half, the rots will make through, we don't want it. That's a bruise, nothing wrong with that. So there's another potential rot. So I can use half the apple. Now when you watch the commercial boys, they're a lot less fussy than I am. Some horrible apples go in there, and I'm always amazed by how many bad apples get mixed in. The theory is if it floats it's fine. Yeah, but would you want that in your cider? No. I'll reject that. Obviously whilst you're picking, you try and reject as many as you can, but you try and do it quite fast, you easily miss them, you know. And I can see a couple here, like that one there. I suspect, yes, right through, rejected, rejected. Fine, fine, fine. And you'll go for another process as well before they actually get milled. You'll be feeding them in by hand anyway, so you'll get a third chance to reject anything that's bad. I just want to say, the varieties that are in the sacks, they don't need washing. They can go straight in the press as they are, because they're the ones that come straight off the tree onto the tarp, and they haven't contacted anything yet, so that's all good. Well, thank you very much for joining me again. Hopefully you found this some use. The next video will be how to actually process these apples and start making the cider itself, or hard cider. Well, actually, no. To be fair, if you know the terminology for the Americans, cider is apple juice. Hard cider is what we term as cider. It's a little bit confusing, but I'll try and use the right terminology. So next time we'll be making cider or apple juice, and then starting the fermenting off. I'm not sure if the fermenting side will be on a third video. I think so. I think it'll be just, and also on that next process, I will show you the different equipment you can use, from the really basic up to what I use, and suggest something that's even better as well, just so that you got the full range. So from the Billy Basic starters, the medium kit, and what I'll be using, which is seasoned amateurs kit. See you next time.